welcome to the Instagram stories for Monday, January 23rd. I'm your host, Daniel Hill. As normal, on Monday, we break down what the head of Instagram, Adam Mosseri, shared on his Ask Me Anything. And this week, he did a ton of questions. I don't know if he just had more coffee or what. I'm not sure if I'm going to create this into two separate episodes because there are that many questions. But let's see how fast I can get through them and so you can get the benefit. Let's dive right in. The first question, you launch stuff all the time. Do you ever unlaunch things? This is referring to the speed at which Instagram rolls out new features. But sometimes they remove features. We talked about one last week. Here's his answer.
We do. We have a process internally that we call unship, and we've unlaunched a number of things. One example that comes to memory is the activity tab. We took a lot of heat for that. And last week we announced that we're going to deprecate the shop tab next month. But if there are other things that you think we should unship, let us know.
I love this answer because I legitimately forgot about the activity tab. This was a subset of the tab that shows all your likes and other notifications, and it showed what people you followed were liking. That would be a really good way to find out if your spouse was, for instance, liking something that you might not necessarily agree with, but it was also a really cool way to see what other famous people you were following were interested in. Eventually, we all stopped using it, I guess. That's why they took it away. But great example of them unshipping a feature. Next question, and this has to do with how features are rolled out. Have you ever wondered if certain groups of Instagram users get features first, for instance, creators? That's the question. Do creators get to see new Instagram features before everyone else? Here's his answer.
Not usually, no. Generally, we try to launch features to as many people as possible, as quickly as possible. Usually, though, if we're testing something, we test it out with a small percentage of people or in a country, usually a smaller country. And then once we know that it's working, then we try to launch it to everybody.
So there you go. It mostly goes by country. I have experienced being in a different country and seeing features that I would not normally see, and then getting home and not having access to them anymore. So definitely agree with the country being the reason why you might see certain features first. Next question. How do the new recommendation features work? Will I lose reach? Here's his answer.
Explorer is full of recommendations. When you tap a video and you scroll, you're going to get more video recommendations. And we're starting to show accounts or content, photos and videos from accounts you don't follow in feed, which are recommendations. Our hope is to focus recommendations on creators and content that's going to be fun and delightful and that you want to see. And if you don't want to see it, show you less of that or less recommendations in general. And our hope is also to mix shift more of the ecosystem towards creators and not away from friends. Friends are always going to be a core part of what we do. But we moved a little too fast on that in 2022, so we're moving very slowly and deliberately now in 2023.
Instagram really has a tough battle ahead of them. If you think about it, it's likely not your friends and family who are creating the most amazing content you've ever seen. It's likely from strangers who are doing this professionally. But you still want to see the content from your friends and family or other brands that you care about. So what's the right mixture of that? TikTok does that really well with the For You versus Following tab. I personally always look at the For You tab and almost never look at the Following tab, but that's just me. You might have a completely different experience, which is why Instagram is in such a tough spot, because everyone wants something slightly different. All right, let's go on to the next question. The next question, what's up with all the spammy accounts? Are you fixing? I have a couple of thoughts about that, but I'll let Adam go first.
We definitely have spam and bots on Instagram. We're doing our best to reduce it. I'm particularly worried about comments right now. And so it's something that we're actually actively looking into and hope to improve over the course of the year.
I have a very large suspicion that spam is happening because of specific hashtags being used. I have experimented with hashtags and I've had very good success with hashtag Slayer, which is a product I've recommended on this podcast for a while, and they were a sponsor for quite a bit of time as well. If you have not checked out hashtag Slayer, I would absolutely recommend it because it will show you which hashtags you should be using, and I'm willing to bet that the ones you shouldn't be using are the ones that are resulting in spam comments and followers. Just my opinion, I certainly could be wrong, but it's worth investigating. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about some other new features that you need to know about with some suggestions.
This episode is brought to you by Shopify. That's the sound of switching your business to Shopify, the global commerce platform that supercharges your selling. Harness the best converting checkout and same intuitive features, trusted apps, and powerful analytics used by the world's leading brands. Stop leaving sales on the table. Discover why millions trust Shopify to build, grow, and run their business. Sign up today for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/tech23.
And we're back. Next question. Can you please just add the possibility to change and add new photos to old album posts? This is talking about carousels. Sometimes they're called galleries. Sometimes you do photo dumps there. And the person is asking for the ability to swap out pictures from that carousel post that you posted some time ago.
You can now actually remove a photo from an old carousel post, but you cannot yet add one retroactively. That is an interesting feature, so we'll take a look at that.
I'm kind of struggling with the concept around that one because how would anyone know? They'd have to be looking at that older post and there would be no indication that you swapped anything out. So I'm kind of struggling with that one, but maybe you want to fix a picture and you didn't have a chance at that time and maybe you did. I'm really speculating here. Next question. What's quiet mode? I really like this question because the person knows that quiet mode exists, but didn't know enough about what it was, so they had to ask. And that makes me wonder, how did you know about the feature in the first place, but not know any details about how it works? Maybe the person just doesn't listen to this show. Who knows? Anyway, here's the answer to what's quiet mode.
We just announced quiet mode this week. It allows you to decide when you might not want to hear from Instagram and basically mute all your notifications during those hours. And we're going to upsell it to teens, particularly for night hours. We want to make sure people feel good about the time that they spend on the platform, and managing their notifications is just one way to do that.
I talked about this feature last week. I personally turn off so many notifications on my phone from all kinds of apps. I want to be in full control of what apps notify me about what and when. And I suggest you do that too. However, if you don't want to go through all that trouble and you want to set it by means of Instagram adding this feature of quiet mode, then by all means, turn that on and you can set it on a schedule so that you can get those hours of sleep that you need between midnight and 6 a.m. or whatever. And anyone who sends you a DM will see that you are on quiet mode, which is a feature I really like. I'm going to stop there. There's a bunch more questions. I will do perhaps another episode of this tomorrow if there's no other Instagram news. As always, thank you for listening, and I'm going to do something special this week. This week, I am calling Review Week. If you have never left a review for this show, but you listen every day or frequently, I'm going to ask that you please leave a review either on Apple Music or on Amazon.com or whatever service you use to listen to this show. Please leave me a review. You can find a link to do that on Apple Music directly in the show notes, but if there's some other app that you use, do it there. Thank you so much for listening, and be sure to come back tomorrow for more Instagram tips, strategy, information, and much more.
I'm not yet a member of the Instagram team, but my podcast covers many Instagram themes. But the name, image, logos are trademarks at Instagram and the LCC in the USA and every territory. Everything I publish independently until Zuck returns my DMs and starts to pay my salary. Not sponsored or endorsed, no lies, no fallacies. I use their logo with permission, not malicious or callously. No trademark violation, filling all criteria. Follow me on Instagram or Twitter at Daniel Hill Media.